Multilingual Redditors was sure they didn't realize I spoke their language story. This happened to my brother and father while they were traveling. Some dude walks up to my brother, thinking he is a local, and starts talking to him in Farsi. When he realized my brother didn't understand, started saying really rude things about him and my dad being stupid. My dad, fluent in Farsi, comes over and rips this asshole a second one. The dude feigned being apologetic and made excuses for his attitude. As he was walking away, he started muttering more foul things about them, but in Turkish this time. Dad speaks Turkish as well and proceeds to rip him a third asshole. There is a man with 3 assholes. I was on a tour bus with my grandmother going to a luau in Hawaii. My grandmother spoke fluent Italian as both her parents were Italian immigrants. 2 young women behind us were speaking to each other in Italian, probably assuming none of the other tourists could understand them. My grandmother told me I don't speak but a few words in Italian, that they were insulting everyone on the bus. She let it go on a while, but just kept getting angrier and angrier as the ride went on. Finally, she turned around and told them off, telling them they should be ashamed of themselves for being so rude. They looked so embarrassed and apologized to her profusely. Getting told off by a grandmother on a tour bus was not what they expected. Hearing girl here, I was looking for something in Target and asked an employee for help. She was busy stocking shelves, and I kept trying to verbally get her attention. When she finally noticed me, she mouthed, "I'm deaf." I set my stuff down to free up my hands, introduced myself, and asked her where what I was looking for was an American Sign Language. Her face completely lit up, and I'll never forget it. Communication is major for deaf people because they are unfortunately often excluded from the hearing world, which is probably why this lady reacted the way she did. Though this was minor, it made a huge impact on me. This instance made me fall in love with sign language all over again and realize how communication is a basic human right that many people do not have or have limited access to. Was in Germany, and a middle school teacher asked me to come in as a guest for one of her English classes. The teacher introduced me. I said hello and that I was from the U.S. and happy to be in their class. The teacher said, "So, do you have any questions in English for an American? What do you think an American is like?" One of the kids near the front says in German, kind of under his breath, but definitely loud enough that most of the class can hear, "Fat and stupid." The kids laugh. The teacher turns bright red. I don't know what to do, so I just say, "Of course. Many Americans can't speak German in German." The kid almost shit himself. He looked like a baby deer that had wandered on stage at a Beyoncé concert. I thought he was just being a dick and had intended me to understand what he was saying. Apparently though, he actually hadn't thought through that an American in Germany in their language class might actually speak their language. I'm fluent in Spanish and was in a bank line in Lima, the capital of a South American city, and these 2 early middle-aged women were in front of me have a mostly quiet chat. One was telling the other about this new young guy at work she was banging and describing all the crazy sex they were having, going into detail about all sorts of stuff. The other wanted to know what he looked like, and she was kind of describing him badly, and she kinda did a sly look around the bank, waited a few seconds, and said in Spanish, "He looks like this guy behind us, but with blonde hair, much better looking and a much better dresser." She did a good job of not gesturing towards me when she said it, but it didn't stop me from hearing it. So she goes back to discussing details about hooking up with him at work, and they don't notice the line has moved. And so without a warning throw clear, I just say, "We all love the details back here, but can you move forward?" She went white as a ghost, and they didn't really talk for the rest of the wait. It was hilarious. The people at the Chinese food place on my campus spoke Chinese to the door exchange students, but even though I spoke Chinese, I just always spoke English to them, since I have an accent when I speak Chinese. But one day I got all meat no rice, since I had a rice maker at home, and when I was paying, the lady says to the person beside her, "Fat ass wants meat no rice," and I responded in Chinese, "Actually, I have rice at home." They didn't charge me for the order and started giving me a bit extra whenever I go there. I went to a psychiatric emergency ward once and asked for help and if they were comfortable to speak English. I understand Danish but had a hard time making myself understandable in it, and didn't really feel like an idiot at a crucial time of my life. I stayed there for 4 days without anyone realizing I knew what they were saying about me right in front of me. 2 of the nurses thought I was cute. 1 doctor thought I was lying all the time. A patient thought I was a spy for the staff. A lot happened in those 4 days. It made my stay way more enjoyable than it should have been. A lady on the bus was being a bitch and slagging people off in Greek until she got to me. She was being excessively nasty about my chipped nail varnish. I don't know either, maybe she was having a bad day. As soon as I clocked it, I turned around and looked her dead in the eye with my very Greek face, and she stopped. She then sat her in the seat in front of me, where I Saturday and called my mom, also Greek, who I had a conversation with for the duration of the bus journey about the rude lady who slacked my nails off because she thought I couldn't understand. In Greek, it was delicious. We had a large family reunion dinner at a restaurant, and we were all sharing stories. My funny uncle was telling us how he used to pretend he was deaf and his sister would translate. To prove it, he asked the waitress to get the manager. When he came over, my uncle started signing to him with made-up and exaggerated gestures. My aunt told him that the food was good and the server was excellent, all the while the manager just smiled and nodded. When they were done talking, the manager said in sign language, he spoke ASL and knew it was bullshit. We blew up laughing, and my uncle's face turned red. I was in a hotel elevator with my wife in Osaka, Japan, the Miyako Marriott to exact. It is a popular hotel for tourists. We were going up the elevator to our room on the 54th floor. It's a high hotel. In the elevator with us is a Chinese family that speaks Cantonese. They must have assumed we were Japanese or some other type of Asian because they started to tease their preteen daughter about how badly she needed to take a shit. They were laughing, and the mother was teasing her about how I can almost see it coming out. Our floor came first, and when it did, I turned to them and said good night in Cantonese. Their face was priceless, and we got out of the elevator. My wife called me a jackass while laughing her ass off. Then we got back to our rooms and took a shit too. When I was stationed in Korea, I was getting a haircut, and the hairdresser had like an assistant or a new person helping her get me seated and prepared. She says to the main girl, he looks like a baby. I have a baby face and was like 22 at the time. I responded in Korean with, I look like a baby. She was really startled and embarrassed and noped out of there for the rest of the haircut. The main hairdresser took advantage of being able to talk with me in Korean. Though, I was in an elevator going back up to my apartment after working out some years ago, and I had a man bun at the time. There were 6 other guys in the elevator speaking Arabic, so I just listened as I usually do. Then, one of the guys goes, haha, look at this guy's hair. It's ridiculous. I turn around and respond, you want to say that again? The 5 other dudes proceed to die of laughter with one of them screaming, I knew you were Arab. I knew you were Arab. I ended up laughing alongside them to their one friend, who felt super awkward. My family and I went to Sri Lanka for 2 weeks to see where my mom grew up and general beach stuff. For some reason, we were like the only people in the hotel. We were staying at aside from a wedding party that left a day after we got there. A few days in, there was another family staying there, I believe from Suriname, and we were all chilling at the pool and decided to play a game of water polo against each other. Things got exciting, and one of the daughters yelled out something in Dutch like, go for the big fat guy. My Dutch dad replied, what big fat guy? And everybody laughed. Just a simple story, but it was pretty sweet. My family is Cuban, but we look white AF. In 2007, I was on a cruise with my parents, and we were sitting next to a Venezuelan couple on the open-air deck ordering food. The woman was looking at my parents and loudly said in Spanish, he's so old, why would a young woman like her marry him? Do you think the child is theirs? Her husband replies, no, probably he is the father's. He's too old to be the woman's. Too ugly too. My mother got very upset and just said, excuse me, in Spanish. The woman's face turned white and she started apologizing profusely. While my mother was telling them off, my dad was laughing his ass off. For the record, my parents are 3 years apart. My dad is only 3 years older. He just looks ancient. At that time, my mother was 47 and my father was 50. Here's one where everyone felt good at the end. When I was living in China, I used to run in this giant park. One morning on one of my runs, I see these 3 young men hanging out by the path. Not too many foreigners in the area. Not too many joggers either. So they immediately notice and start talking about me. One guy says, is she Russian? There was a small but significant Russian population in the city. So, not a bad guess. Another guy talked to her. First guy, nah, she wouldn't understand. By this time, I'm right next to these guys, and I yelled over my shoulder, yes, I do. As I ran past, they absolutely lost their shit. I could still hear them laughing after I went around the bend. I was with my French friend in a corner shop when he was visiting me in Manchester. UK's English is really bad, so we were speaking French. 2 guys were behind us in the queue. My friend told me he wanted to try and speak English to the guy on the till, so I let him. He asked for something in broken English, and the till guy didn't understand him, so he asked him to repeat. At this point, the guys behind us were getting frustrated, and one of them said, fucking foreigners. They should just go home to where they came from. I turned around and told them I am home, and as trying his best, and told them they were assholes. The second guy seemed embarrassed, like he didn't share the same views though. I don't understand people like that at all. They go to Spain on holiday and speak English to everyone. And when someone visits their country and try to speak, it's still not good enough. Write your stories in the comments. Subscribe and watch our others videos.